What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy. I'm just kidding, guys. Don't you hate videos that start out that way? Anyways, you guys know me. I like to get right into it, so let's get started. TRP. Full rail TRP. Now, you might be asking yourself, you've already done a video on the TRP. Why are you doing another one? Well, this one's different. It's got a full rail. I wanted to talk about this gun because, well, first and foremost, RDR Gear came out with this amazing video. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go and check that out. Very good, very knowledgeable. He goes a lot to the shooting aspects about the firearm. You can definitely go check that out if you want to get into the details on how it shoots and various things like that. I will tell you right now, it's a phenomenal shooter. I'm not going to have any footage of me shooting it, mainly because I just my quality isn't the same when I'm out in the range as to when I film here, and I don't want to project you guys with terrible quality of me just simply going out there and shooting it. So like I said, if you want to see that, you can check out his video, and also just check it out for the high definition footage that he has there. Phenomenal channel, phenomenal guy. He inspired me to do a review for this firearm. I've actually had this for a little bit now. I just haven't had the motivation to do any type of video because I already had a TRP video out there, but I'm doing this. My second reason of doing this, I also want to go into a little bit different things about the history of this particular model. Yes, in the other video, I went on about the history of the TRP, but for this particular model, the full rail, I wanted to elaborate on a little bit more. This is the first production railed 1911 ever made. Ever. Now notice I said production, meaning that the rail is integrated into the frame. I'm not talking about the older styles where you had a 1911 that didn't come standard with the rail, and then they had the Dawson rail that was on the bottom that you can attach a light to. This was the first one to have an integrated rail. So, as previously stated, the TRP is inspired from the custom professional FBI model 1911 of the early 1990s. If you haven't seen that gun, if you don't know much about it, I highly suggest doing research on it. It is one cool gun. If I ever get my hands on one again, because I had one and I sold it foolishly, but if I ever get my hands on one again, that will definitely be a keeper. And I actually want a specific one, my old one that I sold. I know who has it. I'm just trying to wait them out patiently, but very impatiently until I get it back. But hopefully I do get it back. But anyways, it was inspired from that gun utilized by FBI SWAT and their HRT teams. Basically, Springfield rolled out the TRP to quench the demand for the professional model that is out there. The main difference between the professional and your TRP, this is a production gun. It's a high-end production gun. Springfield, they actually advertise it as the gold standard of production 1911s. Now, some of you may agree, some of you may argue, specifically if you say, no, Dan Wesson is. Obviously, they have no MIM parts, they're production. Hey, I'm not going to disagree with you. But, I mean, obviously, Springfield is advertising about their own product, so it must be accurate, right? So after they came out with the regular non-railed professional model that the FBI was using, they actually approached Springfield and asked if it was possible to build a frame integrated into the rail. This idea derived from companies like Glock, who were producing polymer guns that had the rail integrated. And it was very convenient, but there were still agencies out there that wanted to use a 1911, but have the bonus that the Glocks had at the time of having an integrated rail. So once Springfield was approached with this, they attacked it head on, and they produced a gun that ended up becoming called the Operator. Now, why the Operator? So the original use of the term Operator was adopted by Army Special Forces in the 1950s. Qualified officers enlisted pledged themselves to a Code of Special Forces Operator. So that's where it can be traced back to, right? Operator. The guy that Special Forces that's out there doing the secret squirrel stuff. Later on, law enforcement, they adopted it also to their SWAT teams and their teams that are leading the front. It's the guy that's kicking in the doors. It's the guy that is leading the way on the assault, the operator. So since they were building that gun for those specific people, the term operator stuck. Now in Springfield term, operator means it has a rail. Now this is applicable to about 90% of their guns, not all of them. Somebody reminded me in the comments section on my previous video, and they're absolutely correct, that there's also the Ronin operator. It does not have a rail. But for the most part, operator for Springfield means that it has a rail. Why a full rail? Well, when they produced this gun back in the 1990s, it was a new concept, and they did not know how much rail was going to be utilized. Lights at the time for your handguns were extremely large. They were a hell of a lot bigger than this. And they weren't sure how much of the rail was going to be utilized in order to put your attachments, such as lasers and lights and a chainsaw, whatever else you wanted to put on. So since this was the first type of 1911 that was pushed out with a rail, they just made the entire thing, the entire way, and was like, hey, whatever people want to attach, they can put on. And then obviously it adds a little bit of weight in the front, so they were able to utilize that as advertisement with the additional weight to keep your muzzle flipped down. And that's why this has a full rail. Now, there's different versions of the TRP. Before I get into the TRP though, I'm going to talk about a different gun, which was called the full rail operator. This is not the same. I almost made the mistake of buying one thinking that it was a TRP. It was what I considered dirt cheap. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to buy this. This guy does not know what he has and doesn't know what he's selling it for. Well, it turns out I was the one that didn't know what he had. I did a little bit of research. I talked to some buddies, and he actually had a full rail operator, which is, it looks the same, right? But it's got a regular barrel. It doesn't have the cone barrel or the bull barrel. And it has a regular bushing, and it doesn't have your adjustable sights in the back, regular sights. And I can't remember, I'll have to look, but I'm not sure if it has the 20 line per inch checkering as well. So that's just a regular operator with a full rail. Now, the TRP version comes along. The TRP has upgrades that isn't standard for the regular 1911 operator. The different versions that we have two non-railed versions that came out. One of them was in black, and then the other one was in stainless steel. And then we have the same gun as this one, but half the rail. So they knocked off a chunk of it. I had an individual who, I was on Facebook talking, and he kept saying how he's upset that Springfield discontinued the original operator. I'm like, what are you talking about? They still make it. It's this version here. And he was like, no, the original one, the half rail, the original one. No, this is the original one. The half rail came later. They make the half rail in, again, both black and then black over gray, which is my previous video that I showed you. And then finally, they make the full rail TRP. It only comes in this color. And as RDR Gear said so many times, this is a iconic weapon. Some people don't like it. Some people think it looks too much like RoboCop's gun with a big chunk in the front. I mean, for me, I'm indifferent about it. I've had both the half rail version and this one, and I mean, they're both the same to me. But again, this one is iconic for different reasons. Largely for me is because it was the first railed, integrated railed 1911 that was ever produced, and Springfield did it first. And you guys know how much I like my railed guns. That's the only type of guns that I currently purchase. I may change my mind in the future, but that's all that I do. So I like this gun. I like it a lot. As I said previously, This is still being produced. The half rail is no longer being produced, and neither is the custom professional model from the custom shop. First and foremost, the custom shop is closed. They do not do custom work anymore. They don't make custom guns. The reason why their production line demand is too high in order to allocate custom gunsmiths to do the custom work. They weighed the pros and cons and they just got out of the business. So custom shop is done. There's a particular reason why this gun is still being made and the half rail isn't. And it all boils down to California. Thank you, California. And this is why. So this gun is on their roster. It's been on their roster for a long time now. And there's one particular thing that separates this from the half rail version. No, it is not the full rail, even though that's obvious, right? No, it's not the grips. I saw another video where it established that the grips were the reason why that it was approved by the California roster. That's not right at all. The thing that separates the two models is back here, right here. This is what is called the integral locking system, or ILS. This is a Springfield Armory proprietary thing, and they integrated this in order to meet the demands for the California roster in order to get the gun approved. Now, how does this differ from a regular mainspring housing? Well, if we look at them visually, right, they both have this hole that's at the top right corner. This hole is meant to retain your spring that goes in there. You push it down, you put it in your retainer pin, keeps it in there. That's going to be the same for both models. Now, what this is a locking system. I don't have the key, unfortunately. Well, kind of fortunately, because I would never use it. But if you were to use it, it's just this little key. You put it back there, right? Your hammer, it has to be forward. You put it back, and then you would lock. You would turn it to the right, and that would lock the spring that's in there from being able to be depressed down. What that does, it basically bricks your 1911. You can't shoot it, you can't pull the hammer back, you can't do anything with it. That's just an extra safety measure because we all know California. One thing I also wanted to add is that the actual springs that are in these two are different. In your regular mainspring housing, the spring is longer than the one that's in here. Some people, they don't like having this ILS system in their gun, so they take it out and they swap it. Easy enough. What they do is that they put the guts in here to in a regular, normal sized mainspring housing. Now, what that does, since that spring is shorter, it's going to cause, or can potentially cause, functional issues when you try to operate it. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to switch these out, make sure you switch out everything. Make sure that you get a new spring for this guy here, and do not use the one that was in there. So that is the number one reason why this gun is still around today, because it's still being shipped to California. Springfield, they must have weighed the pros and cons and decided that they don't need the half rail when they have the full rail version, which does the same thing. They don't need the two different versions. About the gun itself, it has a 5-inch bull barrel or cone barrel in the front. It's got your adjustable sights in the rear. I talk about these sights in my other video. It has your skeletonized hammer in the back here, upswept beaver tail with a memory bump. This trigger I actually swapped out. This is a flat 10/8 trigger. It comes with a 3-hole trigger that's curved. I like this trigger a lot, so I kept it on it. Comes with a full length guide rod, as you can see, and I'm not going to do it in this video because I hear YouTube bans for taking apart a gun or disassembling it live. But there's a little hole that's over here that you would use a pin to put in there, which retains it and allows you to and take out the barrel and everything else once you have the slide off. Dawson Precision makes an awesome one piece where you can disassemble it without having to use that whole silly system, but there's that. 20 LPI in the front and the rear. I like the aggressiveness. And then these are one set of grips that came with this. This actually came with two sets. This one is like a sandpaper covered wood grip. I like it a lot. And then it also came with a set of G10 grips, which I unfortunately don't have. I think that's about it, just to get to the meat and potatoes of it. Oh, also comes with a mag wheel, of course. This is a two-piece. You can see the hole there, or the Allen key nut there. Right, this attaches to your mainspring housing. It has a lot of MIM parts on it, which for me is okay. I haven't had any MIM parts fail on me. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, but from my experience, they're just fine. This model here, you know, it has. I had somebody that was commenting on Facebook about their idiot scratch, and they were all bent out of shape about it. And this one has all types of wear and stuff down here. You know, I just look at these as marks of beauty and shows that the weapon is used, and I don't see anything wrong with that. And like I said, it's a shooter, very accurate, very balanced. It's heavy, but I like it. So I'm not going to be comparing this to the other TRP today. If you want to know why, I have a future video coming out here soon, and I will explain why that is. But there you have it. TRP full rail, the very first railed 1911 in production, and it was done by Springfield and is still around. If you like the gun, pick it up. If you don't like it because it's fugly, then don't buy it. Buy something else. Buy whatever you want. Buy a high-end gun, buy a low-end gun, it doesn't matter, right? That's all I got, guys. Hope this video was informative, and I'll be releasing another video very shortly. Have a good one. Later.